Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kyle, and this is my timed run of 21 Magister's Terrace on my Blood Death Knight. I want to go through, give you guys an idea of my route and mindset. And this Magister's is definitely one of the easier keys, but not a lot of people are doing 20s and 21s, and I'm on my way to 21 Brazil. Before we get into this key, I also forgot to record my 21 Nexus point. So I have two 21s at the time of this recording, 21 Nexus Point and 21 Magisters. I just forgot. I thought I was recording my NPX, but I wasn't. Anyways, I changed my route this pool, and you're going to see that too, specifically before and after the first boss. It looks a little different. People do a bit different things, but I'm looking forward to jumping in with you guys, and we have a really good key. Let's go ahead and get started. So this first pull here is nothing crazy, and this is a complete pug. So we're going to go in, and in this first pull, we're going to lust here. Usually we don't lust. Well, in the beginning of the season, we didn't lust this pool, but we are now lusting this pool. This pool is hard to start for us Blood Death Knights. Why is it hard to start? Because we have to survive the first hit from the Enforcer, we have to get aggro, and we have to start rolling our defensives. So we have a lot to do in a very short amount of time. Luckily for the DPS here gave me some time to gather. As you can see, I ran in with the Death and Decay, I taunted, and I instantly started hitting the Arcane Sentry and the Enforcer because I didn't want them to whack my team. But that's it. There's two casters here, so you want to make sure you're interrupting casts when you see them and just gaming and take this big circle thing where this Arcane Sentry targets you away. Also, damage is blasting, so there's a lot of good damage going on here. We go into our second pull, and we pull this whole thing. I interrupt this Magister, I grip this other Magister, excuse me, and do I grip the healer? I don't. I Gorfine's Grasp it all, and then we just game. I do pop my Purgatory here. This is a scary pull for us Blood Death Knights. I know a lot of other Blood Death Knights, well, the ones in the mount range for keys, they split this pull up, and I can see doing that, especially at like 22s, 23s, but 21s, just gather them all, let your DPS do your thing, and then you just heal yourself. This pull is split, but I would only recommend that if you're doing 22s and 23s, and if you're doing that, you're probably talking to some other tanks already at that point. So maybe you don't need my advice. But this is what's scary on this pull is you have two casters. You have these light sword healers that will put a shield on people, and you have the enforcers that just bang. They deal big physical damage. Going next here, so you see these little books. We're gonna grab 2 packs of these books. We're gonna grab that pack, we're gonna grab this pack, and then we're going to D&D pull this Pyromancer. These books, they just deal single target damage to you and the team. Really nothing scary here. The Pyromancer is what you have to be worried about on this pool. So the Pyromancer will do 2 things. They'll do that ignition that you saw, and that just deals ticking AoE damage to everyone, which is why you saw me put my AMZ down. They also do Pyroblast. It's a long cast, you can interrupt it. I've never seen it go off because it has such a long interrupt time, but I imagine if Pyroblast goes off, it means someone's dead. So just watch out for the ignition, the raid-wide damage that everyone will be taking, and make sure you take the Pyroblast. And the books aren't really anything special here in this pull as well. Going into our next pull, I grabbed this pack of books. I thought about slowing them, but I didn't want them to get to the pack super late, so I didn't. I grabbed those books, and I'm bringing them into this Magister, the Spellwoven Familiar, and I also grabbed this Healer and Enforcer and this Arcane Sentry, and we get to gaming. This pull can be scary, so I guess it is scary because that Spellwoven Familiar will just pick somewhere to jump to, and then will will just cast. So make sure you're interrupting the cast on the Magister. The Spellwoven Familiar will just blink to random places and deal big damage. The Arcane Sentry will do big knockbacks. That also deals big damage, and he'll target someone and they'll drop the goop that you see on the floor here. So really not a scary pool. If you've watched a few of my videos, you notice there's a trend: interrupt. Really not a scary pool if you just interrupt. Just keep on, which can be hard for a pug. I realize this, but interrupt, you're gonna be safe here. So a lot of people, what you'll see them do is you'll see them do an Arcane Sentry skip. We don't do that here. So we're going to kill this Arcane Sentry and go straight into the boss. A lot of people be saying, Kyle, why go straight into the boss here? This seems dangerous. Don't you have to worry about count? Don't worry. Don't you worry. We're going to get count and kill the boss at the same time here. This also is this is dangerous. This is dangerous pool for multitudes of reasons. One, it's dangerous for us as tanks because that knockback hurts. And then 2 and 3, this is dangerous for your group because 2, that Pyromancer is back. So you know what comes back with that Pyromancer? Ignition. And this big construct does big AoE damage. So you have the big AoE damage plus the ignition that deals ticking damage to everyone. So very scary for your group here, as well as the kick from the Pyroblast. If you're a tank and you're tanking this is so tankable. Blood Death Knights, we can do this. Here's the strat for this. You want to tank the boss off to the side and keep the walkway clear. And then once he does his like suck ball thing, you want to bring him to the door here. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Kyle, why am I bringing him to this door? You're thinking, we pull him to this door because as you can see, the orbs only came from 2 directions as compared to every direction in the book, north, south, west, whatever SpongeBob said. So we pull the boss here to avoid all the balls coming from everywhere. And then we go into our second pack here with the boss. Again, let's get percentage and kill the boss at the same time here. Why this is scary is if you have an all melee group like me, they run around, that was bad because I pulled them and then dragged the boss through the purple, which leads to loss of downtime. Luckily this group bangs, but also why this is scary is because those worms, when those worms die, they deal damage to you and also give you damage. So it's like a kiss and curse at the same time. So you get more damage, but to get that damage, you have to take some first. And it's all AoE damage. So if those birds or those worms die all at the same time, a lot of people are taking ticking AoE damage when one of those dies, and it's a big pack of them. So you just want to be careful with that. Outside of that, that's the pool, and that's this fight. Very doable. As you can see here, I get knocked back, and I get ready to pre-position the boss. So I get knocked back. I'm looking to the right here because his next Arcane Explosion is going to leave goop on the floor. So I get that ready. I park him right here and I just game. Repulsing Slam's going to come through and that's going to knock me back. And then after that, he does his Arcane Explosion, which leaves the goop on the ground. But that's this boss. This boss really isn't that scary once you get in the middle and get going into it. But the pull and bringing other ads into it definitely is scary. Once that boss dead, this is a scarier pull. So what I do, not really, I grab these enforcers and I grab those worms. So here's what makes this pull scary. The enforcers deal big damage, melee damage. The worms give you damage, but at the cost of AoE dam when they die, as well as the spellbreaker will target someone and deal big damage to them and also do a big frontal. So what we do here is, if this is a pug, if this were a coordinated group, you'd pull both sides of these worms right off rip. This is not a coordinated group though. This is a pug. So I split them up to make sure we survive. My perk pops here, so I turn my back. Learn from my mistakes. Don't turn your back to mobs, no matter what key level you're in. I pull these worms. I start backtracking because I want to chain it into the next group over here. You see one of them is CC'd. Beautiful. I grip the Magisters, give a good interrupt, grab the other guy, and then we just game here. Again, more of the same here. The healers, they'll do healer things, shields and such. Magisters, you want to make sure you're interrupting, and the spell shield there, he's dead in this pack, but they will do a targeted line, and they will pick a random person and throw something at you and do a lot of damage, and you can shadow meld that. Again, I want to make it very clear. If this was a coordinated group, so we're all in comms, we're talking to each other, I'd pull all those worms together and bring them in one on top of each other. This is not a coordinated group, and in the interest of keeping the group alive and making sure our defenses are synced up, I do not do that. You see the Devourer ripped aggro off the Spellbreaker here? That has like never happened to me. I've never had that happen. So that was interesting, which means he was gaming. But this pool, again, not really scary. What's scary in this pool? The Magister, just make sure you interrupt. The Spellwoven Familiar, he'll just blink and do big damage to the group. You can't control that. And then this Rune Spellbreaker will do that big line AoE that you see, and then they'll pick a person right there at the Rune Glaive, throw the Rune Glaive at them, deal big damage. If you're really gaming and you want to impress your teammates, or you want to impress yourself, if you get targeted by that Rune Glaive, you can shadow meld it if you're a Night Elf. And also let me know in the chat if there's other ways to drop that as well. This next pull, we're going to grab these familiars, the healer, and we're going to go into the Spellbreaker, and we're just going to game. No idea how the Paladin died there, to be honest. I know he didn't have aggro. I have no idea how he died. I think he had a residual dot, but that's out of our control. This is a big pull. We lust this pull. Why do we lust this pull? Because there's a lot of damage going out, and it's very, very scary. A lot more of the same here. The Rune Spellbreakers that will target you with that Rune Glaive and throw it at you to do targeted frontals. There's an Enforcer, which does big melee damage to you, as well as a Spell Shield Familiar that will just jump and deal damage, and a healer who will do healer things and give shields and things like that. So if that sounded like a lot, it's because it is. And so we just lust this pool. Good rule of thumb is you always want to lust the pool before the second boss. That goes down rather quickly and well, though. And we go on to the second boss here. What's scary about the second boss? For tanks, nothing. This is a very chill fight. So if you're a Blood Death Knight, I don't care what key level you're doing this on, breathe a little bit here. This is a time for you to go, do a little breathing and relax a little bit. What does this boss mechanically do? So as you can see, he'll target people with that Rune Glaive, which we saw before, and that will leave a dot that you have to run into the circle to break. Now, if you are a Death Knight, I don't care if you're Blood, Unholy, Frost, you have an ability called Anti-Magic Shell. And what that does, so you see how that rune mark is going out? If I had AMS, I can just AMS it and I'll never get the mark to begin with, which means I don't take damage to begin with, which means my group won't take damage when I have to clear that circle. And then he'll do something called Wave of Silence that does big AoE damage and silences people. Get into the bubble to avoid that damage and to avoid that 5-6 second silence. It's really bad if you get that silence. But that's essentially the fight. The circles go out, clear circles. You jump in the big circle when he does his silence thing, and that's what you do from here. So that's the fight. What I would recommend you do as a tank, I don't care what kind of tank you are, no matter what class, you always want to try to keep the boss near or in the circle. You might be asking yourself, Kyle, why would I want to keep the boss near the circle? It's so you can keep uptime up. Because at one point, especially if you have melee DPS, you're going to have to go in the circle and come back out, and you don't want damage to stop then. You want to keep damage rolling. You want to keep people still hitting the mobs, even if they're silenced. So how you do that is you tank the boss right near the circle. So when you go in the circle, you can still hit the boss. Even if it's just an auto attack, you're still getting damage in on the boss. So always, pro tip for my tanks out there who are running their heads in 21s or 20s or 19s or whatever key level, try to keep the boss near the puddle just for the best uptime that you can get. But that's essentially it. There's nothing too crazy on this boss. I'll let you watch how my team cleared it. Nothing too crazy on that boss, and don't we love RP and Mythic Plus time dungeons? Isn't that the best? I know it is. So after this boss is dead, we run up the stairs, we click this Sinister, and we channel entry into it, and now we have the void side of this dungeon to be. This pool right here seems scary, but it's really not. So there's a long hallway of little shadow ads. It reminds me of the ads from Kingdom Hearts. You get all these ads, you interrupt this Void Walker, who's the only interruptible mob in this little pool, which is not bad. You run all the way out, you gather everything. I D&D to slow him down, and I grab this big Void Caller and pull him back, and we start gaming. What's scary here? There's a lot of melees that are going out. If you were the tank, so there's lots of melees going out. So you want to make sure you live through the melees. The dreadful Void Walker will cast a Shadow Bolt, which deals damage. It's just a bolt. You want to kick it. This Void Caller, he is the main guy of this pool. So the Void Caller will do Call of the Void, which you can see here is spawning a bunch of ads. Tanks, if you're just get aggro. If you're a Blood Death Knight, put your Death and Decay down and press your Blood Boils. He'll also do massive AoE damage as well, and we'll see that in a pull or two coming up. But once everything is dead here, the caster, the big guy, we move on to even more casters. We have this Void Terror and 2 Shredders here, and we pull them into this room with 2 more Void Terrors. And we're gonna chain this with 2 more casters. Fun. And you can see me getting prepared to do that. But this pool is not dangerous. Why does it appear dangerous? Because there's lots of kicks. There's 3 Void Terrors, and the Void Terror will cast a Fear. that has to be interrupted. And if you don't interrupt that, everyone takes damage, or excuse me, everyone takes damage and you're feared for 4 seconds. So it's a wipe. So you have the Void Tears and you have the dreadful Voidwalker who will also cast a bolt that you just want to make sure you're interrupting. So you have lots of melee. You have like 3 to 4 different fears that you have to kick, and then you have a Shadow Bolt that you have to kick as well. So this is a very, it is a scary pull, but only if you don't kick. If you coordinate your stuff, Blinding Sleets, Gorfine's Grasp, interrupt, stun, grip, you're gonna be okay. Like, it's not that scary if you do all those things, but if you don't, or you mismanage a kick, then it becomes really scary. From there, we go into pull the Tyrant, the Void Caller, a Void Terror, and we just game. So there's a lot of scary things going on. This is a scary pool. Like, this is one, you have the Void Terrors that cast the fear that you have to interrupt. You have this Void Caller who will summon ads and cast Consuming Shadows, which is just a big AoE to everyone, as well as the Devouring Tyrant will cast Devouring Strike on you. And what that will do, if you have Devouring Strike, it puts a Healing Absorb on you, a big Healing Absorb. If you're a Blood Death Knight, that's not too scary because you can AMS it off and pre-AMS it, and we can also heal ourselves with Death Strike, so it's not too scary for us. But that is something to be aware of if you're not a Blood Death Knight. You see I have a full shield here that I'm just heal off through Death Strike. Not too bad. This pull is not necessarily scary for you. It's more so scary for your team because there's lots of AoE damage going out and ads being summoned as well. I had also, it makes me think, as I'm watching this, I clicked an ability and I'm a half clicker. I'm a half button presser and half clicker. Get over it. I don't know what to tell you. It's such a weird critique to have. Yeah, I'm clicking buttons. Yes, correct. I don't know. Respectfully, let me know when you time a 21, multiple 21s without clicking. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but to each their own. That's a funny thing. I've been getting, going into this boss, what can we, you'll notice that I pulled in 2 Voidwalkers as well into this. And why I do that is because I want to make sure I have funnel for my damage. So funnel, someone please explain it in the comments, but essentially more mobs, more targets, more high health targets means more damage for some classes like a warrior. So I'm not too sure how that works, but I always make sure there's at least, if I have a warrior, you're getting the cleave treatment where I'm gonna bring in mobs for you so you can deal max damage. I let them know we can hero because if you look at our timer, we have 11 minutes left and hero has a 10-minute debuff. So if we can get as much heroes in as possible, you get them in. So if we can hero, we hero, or lust, anything like that. To this boss, really, there's nothing to this boss. If you're a tank, you're just following around the little lads with the big boss. That's it. He's going to summon little copies of himself. You just follow. You take the main boss and you follow the little ads to keep damage up, to keep cleave up. That's all we do here, as well as the boss will target you and do a targeted damage. Just make sure you have defensives. There's nothing we can do about that. If you get targeted, you get targeted. This cosmic sting, you'll see with an arrow over my head. I'll put down like a puddle. Just make sure you're putting those puddles not in the walkway. And that's it. Randomly also you'll get sucked in, and you'll see as well, you'll have like random targets where if you run to a certain ad, you'll break their shield. Why you want to break shields is to make sure you have as much damage to everyone possible. Because if there's a shield, it's going to be eating some of the shield for a mini ad because they all share health. And you just don't want to do that. Simply, if you have the red line, just run to your target ad and call it good. So that's really all there is to this boss. You're following up the little ads to make sure cleave and all that stuff is high. You're dropping cosmic stings off to the side. You're avoiding the suck if you are being sucked in, and if you're getting targeted damage, you're just getting targeted damage, and you run to the ad to break their shield. That's it. Really not a scary boss. Again, if you are a tank, this is a boss we can breathe. We can breathe. Once this boss is dead, we have another big pull coming up here. So you can see I grab these 2 shredders. I grab all these little voidlings, cosmic people, blood boil just to make sure I keep aggro. I keep turning around so I can press my buttons and death strike to heal. I death and decay those other voidlings over there, and I come into these 2 void terrors and we just game. Again, this pull, nothing to it. There's 2 void terrors and there's lots of little voidlings. So interrupt those fears, because if that fear goes off, if you're doing a lower key, you're going to be okay. But if you're doing a higher key, I would say 18s plus, 19s plus, you are dead. So there's a lot of melee damage going on here, and you just want to interrupt the void terrors. I'm just creeping up, so when the mobs die, we have some place to go to. The Demon Hunter says, hey, don't do that. We don't need to be rushing. Good comms from this Demon Hunter. I was not rushing. I was just putting us in a better position once they're dead. But I can appreciate the comms. I actually do appreciate it. There is no need to rush in a moment like this. So we get those ads down and we go up top, and we have one last pack, excuse me, before we go into the boss. See all those voidlings? I blood boiled them to gather them. So take these voidlings into these 2 shredders and 2 void terrors and 3 shredders. What's going on here? Lots of physical damage and 2 void terrors. Terrace, you want to interrupt the terror wave. Once those are interrupted, you see that I start to creep over to this tyrant, as well as the 2 big shadow guys. I'm trying to remember their names. Once those interrupts are gone, I go over here and I get this devouring tyrant, as well as the shadow void caller, and we do big damage. So this pull, it is scary. Why is it scary? Because there's 2 fears that you have to interrupt. The void caller, he does the consuming shadows, he does the big AoE damage to everyone, and he summons the extra mini mobs, as well as the devouring tyrant will cast the devouring strike, which is a big heal absorb that we have to heal off, or death strike our way through. That's what's going on this pull. There's lots of damage going out. This is a great candidate for an AMZ if you have one, or for some Zephyrs for your group-wide defensives. On top of that, we're just gaming. We're just interrupting. We're taking lots of physical hits, and we're being worrisome of consuming shadows. We're getting aggro of the little things that are spawning, and then we're healing that absorb shield off of ourselves as well. Once that pack is dead, we are good on count, and we're going straight into the boss. This spoiler, we did time this. And DPS is really good. We actually don't really get to use our last lust because DPS is really, really good here. So this boss really isn't all that scary. Not really, I would say it can get scary quick, but it's really not that bad. So this boss, what happens, he'll put a huge dot on us called the hulking fragment there. Bonus points if you are a blood death knight, you can AMS that. So every hulking fragment deals big damage to you and leaves goop on the ground once dispelled. But if you are a blood death knight, you have AMS. So every other hulking strike you can AMS and not take damage and not leave goop on the ground like I did there. As well as there will be a ball that goes around. We're just playing volleyball because it's summertime, and we're sending the ball back and forth between each other, and there's going to be balls flying out from players that you just want to avoid. If you hit it, you take a lot of damage. So that's all we're doing here. We're dodging, dipping, ducking, and diving. Here's a hulking fragment where I did have an AMS for. As you can see, I don't get the damage. I don't leave any goop on the ground. So I am just AMSing. I'm dropping the goop off to my left. I'm grabbing the volleyballs when they come to my side, and I'm also dodging the balls that get sent through the raid. There's lots of movement going on here, as well as I want to say that this dot that you see, so I get hit with the hulking fragment, I take a lot of damage, and I get dispelled, which leaves a goop on the ground. That goop on the ground hurts. But here's my but, and here's a big but. It doesn't deal that much damage if you're a tank. So if you have to go soak a ball while it's in the goop, you go soak the ball. It happens no matter where you place it. It can get down. So my advice to you, no matter what kind of tank, no matter what key you're doing, is if you have to stand in the goop to hit the volleyball, you just do it. You just do it. It's fine. You can live it. You'll be okay. Maybe do a defensive before if you're really worried about it, but you'll be okay. Especially for my Blood Death Knights. You're watching me. We'll be okay. Don't have to worry about it too much. But that's the fight. Like I said, really nothing going on here. You can see there's a volleyball in the goop. I hit it because we can deal with it. There's nothing to it much from there. Enjoy the rest of the fight. And with the last 10%, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in and enjoying. Really appreciate all the love I'm getting on these episodes. I hope it's helpful to you in some way, shape, or form, whether you're a Blood Death Knight or whatever. And this is our second 21. We're going for the 1% mount this season. So we're 221s at the time of this recording. We're going for the 4K score to make sure we're safe, just to make sure we get that mount. But I hope you guys enjoy. Hope you learned something. And while it's just my hobby, talking to people is my passion. If you would check out my podcast where I've spoken to business owners, billionaires, people who've lost 500 pounds, that is Lord. And I'll see you next time. Peace.